What's up, everybody, and welcome to my final Spyro Original Trilogy Reignited Trilogy episode for the foreseeable future. My finale to my Spyro the Dragon deep dive. And for today's episode, we'll be taking a look at Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon, and doing what I do frequently, and ranking them.
I hate dragons!
And before we get started, be sure to drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment down below as to what your favorite game in the original or Reignited trilogy is. And I guess if you want, try to guess how I'm gonna rank the games based on everything I've said in my previous videos. Also, I don't know who needs to hear this, but these are just my opinions. I am not the definitive arbiter of what is the best game out there. I'm just Rebel, ranking stuff. Let's get into it. Also, my Logitech webcam is being really weird, and I checked the drivers, said I had Logitech drivers, but then says I don't have Logitech drivers when I open my Logitech webcam, and it's kind of messing with the audio a little bit. Slight delay. Quick recap, I grew up with Spyro 1 as the first game I owned on the first console I owned. I'd played other games at friends' houses and I ended up owning a few different games, but Spyro was always my favorite from that era. It wasn't my first introduction into video games, but being the first game you own, it's the first game you truly form a bond with. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I friggin' love these games. They're amazing. The stories, the characters, the bosses, the level design, the hub worlds, the collectibles, the platforming, the gameplay, the challenges and minigames, and of course, the soundtracks. And those are actually all the things I'll be going over individually. We'll be going over each category I listed and rewarding the winner with a medal, gold, silver, and bronze for third, of course, and starting off, the story. The story in Spyro is what drives you as Spyro to beat the game. It's the overall plot, obviously. And Spyro 1 came out at a time when a story wasn't completely necessary to a game. By the time the next two games came out, having a more fleshed out story was becoming the norm. But still, Spyro the Dragon did attempt a story. Spyro is a young dragon, some older dragons were doing a TV interview and badmouthed some Nork named Gnasty, and he froze all the adult dragons into crystal. Yeah, and that's about it. You have to unfreeze the dragons and defeat Gnasty and Orc. And apart from the intro cutscene, all there really is a normal ending and a 100% ending as far as cutscenes go, which is just another interview with Spyro. This story doesn't really develop at all. Spyro 2's story was a lot better. Spyro is in the Dragon Realms and it's all rainy, so he decides to go to Dragon Shores. On the way through the portals, he's pulled out of another portal by a group of funny animals trying to find a dragon. They needed a dragon to fight Ripto, a very short thing that came through the portal and is actively trying to take over their realm, Avalar. Ripto hates dragons and constantly threatens Spyro while taking over the different hubs. While the story doesn't change much throughout, there are many cutscenes that do progress the story somewhat, which was a huge step up from Spyro 1, but everything did kind of stay static throughout. Different hubs would fall to Ripto as you got to those hubs, but that's the extent of it. Spyro 3, on the other hand, corrected what Spyro 2 didn't do. And I'm not faulting Spyro 2 for not having a better progression, but I will applaud 3 for doing it. While relaxing in the Dragon Realms, a bunny shows up to start stealing dragon eggs. She's stealing the dragon eggs for her master, the sorceress. Spyro and Hunter follow her to the Forgotten Realms and hunt down the eggs. Through the story, the reason the sorceress wants the eggs is revealed. Hunter is kidnapped by Bianca the bunny. Bianca ends up freeing Hunter and helping you to defeat the sorceress. The story evolves in a much better way in this game. Motives are discovered, friendly NPCs temporarily become unavailable, a villain becomes an ally. It's all much more deep. And because of all of that, getting the bronze is Spyro 1. The story is fine, and it's set up fine, and then it's the game. The dragons you rescue will give you tips occasionally, but the story goes nowhere from there. Hell, even when you finally face Gnasty, he doesn't even have any dialogue. Getting the silver is going to be Spyro 2. The game did take you to a new world, although so did 3, but credit where credit is due. Avalar was a great world to explore, and Ripto was a great villain to drive Spyro to beat him. Ripto showed up periodically to remind you why you're playing the game. There were a few cutscenes showing how Ripto came to Avalar, and it's really nice. However, getting the gold is going to be Spyro 3. While the sorceress's side of the story wasn't strong, having a villain become the hero is a great development for a game to do. Later showing why the main baddie is doing what they're doing adds that little oomph to either add more disdain to the villain. It's great. Having the story use characters from the previous story is amazing, and lest we forget the final cutscenes. Amazing. Spyro 3 definitely deserves the gold here. Next we have the characters, who the games introduced to us. And I'll try to be fair here, explanation soon. Spyro 1 introduced us to Spyro. Yes, the first game in the franchise was indeed the first game with the titular character. Shocker, I know. But along with Spyro, we're also introduced to Sparx the Dragonfly. Great characters, let me tell ya. There's also all the dragons, pretty insignificant by themselves, but together they're pretty interesting. And of course, Gnasty Gnorc. And that's about it. I mean, Spyro and Sparx are great, but due to the voice actor in one not being Tom Kenny, he's kinda weird. But this is Spyro. Yep, Spyro 2 had some great characters, Hunter, Alora, and the Professor as the friendly NPCs. There's also Moneybags, and of course Ripto, Crush, and Gulp. And not only them, but every level was accompanied by unique characters. Spyro 3 did the same thing, and I think that's more relative to level design. Spyro 3 used a few of the same characters as 2, Hunter and Moneybags were always present. However, now there was Bianca and the Sorceress, as well as Sheila, Bentley, Sergeant Bird, and Agent 9. Now, for some reason, I love Agent 9. He's awesome. Bianca has development as she started off as a villain and becomes an ally, and characters being tied very closely to the story. Bronze again goes to Spyro 1. Sure, it gave us Spyro and Sparx, and Nasty is somewhat memorable, but I mean, that's it. Spyro 2 gets the silver, and you may disagree because you love Alora or Ripto, and that's fine. I will say Spyro 2 did handle Moneybags and Hunter better than 3. And I know I said I was going to be fair, but Alora and the Professor coming back for 3 was great, although I'm not taking that into account. Agent 9 and Sergeant Bird are awesome, and I don't know why, but Bianca's development really does stand out when you take the development process into account. So the gold here has to go to Spyro 3. And like I said, if you really like Alora and the Professor, then maybe you'd give this one to number 2, and that makes sense, but the special NPCs and Bianca did it for me. I'm gonna take a little break here as the next section is bosses, and I actually already did a whole video on the bosses in the video that might be popping up there or down in the description, but I have a feeling you already watched that one. Right on. And to summarize from that video, Spyro 3 has the best bosses leading up to the main boss and some mini bosses. Also the best overall boss gameplay, and thus it gets the gold. Spyro 2 has the most memorable villain in Ripto, and it did actually try to do boss battles, and thus silver. And for bronze, Spyro 1. Nasty is a great villain, definitely memorable, and every boss level has a small standard level as a part of it, and I like that. Yeah, but that's basically all 1 had going for it. And next is level design, the level ambiance, overall layout, secrets, and all that good stuff. And Spyro 1 started the whole feel of the game. The levels in 1 are some of my favorites. The secrets are perfect. The levels are all designed around only platforming. So to pad the levels, they don't add a minigame area, they add more level. The only downside being all levels in the hub share a theme of the hub. They are different enough though. Spyro 2's levels have a lot more open space than 1. The levels feel a little more empty, and when a level could be longer, the game normally opts to add a minigame area instead of more level. The themes here can be good, a few of them I do enjoy, some can be pretty lame though. 3 has some of my favorite themes though. Dino Mines, for example. Dinosaur Cowboys. Come on. The levels also do have some secrets, whereas 2, they didn't really have any secrets in the levels at all. 3 also has levels that really do feel flushed out, unlike 2, where they're kind of desolate and empty half of the time. So getting the bronze is going to be Spyro 2. The level themes were the weakest of the bunch to me, and too much openness. Not great. Getting the silver is Spyro 1. Some great levels, amazing secrets, and overall nice level themes, and given how different they could be. And once again, I bet you're noticing a trend here. Spyro 3 gets the gold. They brought back secrets within the levels. The levels were long without the added minigame sections, and the themes were able to be extremely different. And if Spyro 1 had a little bit more diverse levels, it might have come in first. And similar to level design, next we'll be looking at hub worlds, where Spyro uses to get to the levels. Spyro 1 had hubs that set up the theme for each level in that hub. These hub worlds actually had enemies, the only game to do so. There were a few secrets hidden in these hubs. And then there was Spyro 2. Ambient music with no percussions, no enemies, and there were only 3 hubs. The first 2 were pretty enormous, the biggest hubs in the trilogy actually. Also housing some of the best secrets in Spyro 2. Then there was Spyro 3, small hubs, very few secrets. There were, however, 4 hubs, so there's that. However, that's not enough to save it from the bronze medal. Unlike 2's 3 different hubs, there were more hubs here. but they were relatively small, and no big secrets to help them stand out. Getting the silver is going to be Spyro 2. The hubs here, while there aren't a lot, are based on seasons, and there aren't even 4 for the 4 seasons, come on. They are big, at least the first 2, and all 3 have amazing secrets in them. Also, they did attempt them different than 1, but maybe not for the better, because getting the gold is going to be Spyro 1. The hubs here, setting the stage for each level in the hub is great. Having enemies in the hubs is very unique for the trilogy and makes it stand out in a good way. And while there aren't as many or even as good secrets in these hubs, there are a few here, unlike 3. But mainly I'd say it gets the gold because the hubs in 1 are more similar to the levels themselves, and what's better than more Spyro levels? And man, that is only the halfway point. 5 subjects down, 5 to go. But to summarize, Spyro 1 has 1 gold, 1 silver, and 3 bronze. Spyro 2 has no golds, 4 silvers, and 1 bronze. And Spyro 3 has 4 golds, no silvers, and 1 bronze. And with 1 and 2 basically tied and 3 in the lead, let's keep going. Next, we have the collectibles, what you collect to help you progress through the games, and each game has gems, very fitting as dragons love treasures according to dragon lore. The first game had dragons, frozen and crystal, and dragon eggs being stolen by egg thieves. The frozen dragons have this noise accompanying them, and it's great. The egg thieves also have a distinct sound. Spyro 2 has orbs, given mostly for challenges and stuff, and talismans given at the end of levels. However, in the last hub, talismans are replaced by orbs. Orbs do have a sound to them, however, you'll only notice that in the hubs, as orbs aren't really hidden in the levels. Spyro 3 has eggs. Just eggs. Only the dragon eggs. That's why Spyro 3 is getting the bronze. There's only 1 collectible excluding gems. They're given for almost everything, and it diluted the value of the eggs. Not great. Getting the silver is going to be Spyro 2. The orbs are fine and the talismans are cool enough, but the fact that the orbs were almost diluted isn't the best. And the fact that the talismans just disappear for no reason to be replaced by orbs, And the game that did collectibles the best, Spyro 1. The dragons are amazing, so unique in and of themselves, and the dragon eggs, while not the best thing about the game, are great and add a lot of diversity. Love it. Next, we have the platforming. This is a platforming game after all, so this is one of the, if not the most crucial part of the games, and Spyro 1 was truly the epitome of this. The levels couldn't do anything except platforming. Hell, the game couldn't even do bosses, so instead it was more platforming, and that's how most of the secrets were hidden, through platforming. Not new moves or something random like that. Spyro 2 added minigames and challenges, and somehow forgot to really focus some attention on the platforming. There is platforming, don't get me wrong, but it just pales in comparison with what Spyro 1 gave us. Spyro 3 seemed to remember its roots and brought us back an acceptable amount of platforming. It's great, especially in comparison with 2, who's getting the bronze. The game started trying minigames, and while they are now a staple of the original trilogy, they did take away greatly from the platforming side of Spyro. And getting the silver is Spyro 3. Remembering its roots and returning is great, however it just can't compete with the gold Spyro 1. The platforming here is the pinnacle of platforming to me. Anything they did had to revolve around the base platforming mechanics of the game, and it was perfect. Next, we have the overall gameplay. Platforming is the style, but gameplay is the moves, and Spyro 1 introduced the moves. Gliding, charging, fire breath. Admittedly, the gliding aspect would be my favorite, but overall the games share this basic moveset, so it's more so a franchise thing. And at its core, while Spyro 1 introduced it all, that's all. Spyro 2 introduced a few new moves, as well as gimmicks such as riding Hunter's Manta Ray, controlling a trolley, and more. But yeah, new moves. Swimming was an amazing addition. Climbing ladders was, well, it was climbing ladders. And head bash. Yeah. Spyro 3 has all of the moves you learned over the course of Spyro 2 right from the start, and because they couldn't think of any new moves for Spyro 3, they added 4 new playable characters with movesets of their own. They made Sparks a playable character, and of course bringing back random gameplay mechanics for a slew of minigames. And that's why Spyro 3 gets the gold. It's literally the most expansive moveset list of the trilogy. Second, of course, is Spyro 2. Adding new moves and new gameplay gimmicks was a lot on top of the original gameplay, which means sadly Spyro 1 gets the bronze. The original moveset is great, but it's just a basic moveset list at the end of the day, and every decent video game has one of those. And I was going to talk about challenges and minigames, but that's basically the same thing as gameplay, and the ranking here ended up the same anyway. But suffice to say, Spyro 1 didn't have minigame style challenges. Spyro 2 did, but they needed some work, and Spyro 3 took what they had learned and had the best minigames and challenges. And lastly, we have the soundtrack, the music that constantly plays in the background. The melody used to create the ambiance, and the Spyro trilogy does that perfectly. The first game kind of setting the stage, the magical sounds, the whimsical melodies, the originality, and I know there's a term for it, but when the melody kind of repeats throughout different songs, yeah, the game does that a lot. Oh, and as I'm sure you're aware, the soundtrack was created by Stuart Copeland of The Police, so needless to say, it's amazing, and the drums are amazing. In fact, I'm just gonna get this out of the way, the drums in all three games are just amazing. Now back to Spyro 1. All the songs here are amazing. There's not a single song that I dislike in the game. However, that did change with Spyro 2. There were a few weird sound effects, and some of them just kind of threw off the song. The hub worlds decided to not have percussions, which was weird. The melodies don't really stand out to me too much, but great drums though. However, that's about it. And then there was Spyro 3. Now the songs, because the game had more diverse level theme overall, had more unique songs in it. Some great melodies here. In fact, some of my favorite songs in the trilogy are from this game. Some. Not all. In fact, like Spyro 2, Spyro 3 had some songs that I just didn't vibe with. And while yes, some of the songs I do think are better than some of the songs in Spyro 1, it is kind of a numbers game. Spyro 3 had a lot of songs. It had a pretty beefy soundtrack. So did 2, but I don't really like 2s. So getting to the bronze is going to be Spyro 2. I don't know, man, it's just the soundtrack I vibed with the least. Getting the silver is going to be Spyro 3. Man, some of the songs here are great, but there are a couple that I just don't like at all. In fact, the extra, God, I don't know, 40 minutes of playtime on the soundtrack didn't do enough to get it over the edge to get the gold medal, but Spyro 1 definitely did. The fact that it didn't have anything to base itself off of. The originality of it was just pure amazing. The repeated melodies, while they do kind of get repetitive, do fit each song and each level uniquely. And being that the level themes were also similar between each hub, the fact that each song was able to be as unique as it was is truly a testament to amazing video game soundtrack production. Now I completely lost count of medals, but oh well, with that final bronze, coming in third is going to be Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. The game has great characters, some of the best hubs in the trilogy, and introduced a brand new approach to Spyro the Dragon. It is truly an amazing game to play. Just so happens to be my least favorite of the three. And ranking in second, actually getting a couple of gold medals, is going to be Spyro the Dragon. The pinnacle of PlayStation 1 platforming. With the story, the characters, and the overall moveset being the weakest of the three, the platforming here was truly at an amazing level. And while as an overall experience, Spyro 1 might be my second favorite, if I plan on ignoring the story and just focusing on the gameplay, Spyro 1 is what I turn to. And with an overwhelming and probably biased amount of gold medals, coming in first is going to be Spyro Year of the Dragon. The story was great, the challenges and minigames were really improved upon from its predecessors, and of course the platforming. While unable to surpass the original, the platforming here is exceptionally well done. And with everything compounded, Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon is, in my opinion, the best Spyro game in the original and reignited trilogy. And that's gonna wrap this one up. That's actually gonna wrap up this whole thing. I will probably be making a what I'd like to see or 10 things I'd like in Spyro 4, of course, obviously. But besides that, we've finished the deep dive into Spyro. So on the horizon, we have a channel update. Whatever, who cares? Make sure you liked if you enjoyed, make sure you're subscribed, and until next time, peace.